Welcome everybody to Randomjeanc Reviews Rollercoaster Tycoon 3. Yes, a blast from the past. Damn, this game was released 11 years ago. I still remember going into my local GameStop and purchasing this game with its sexy box, and my crappy compact computer not being able to run it well. Finally, now I can run it, and it only took me 11 years. Anywho, you may be asking yourself, Randomjeanc, why are you reviewing this game? It's an artifact by now. And I'll respond to you, well, because yet again, the sequel is scheduled to be released this year sometime. Although probably not anymore, because the developers haven't mentioned a release date yet, even though almost halfway down through the year, but hopefully it does get released this year, and hopefully it won't suck ass. Probably not. Rollercoaster Tycoon 3, or RCT3, is a construction and management sandbox strategy simulator that was released on October 26, 2004 in the US and on November 3rd, 2004 in Europe. RCT3 was developed by Frontier Developments, the same company who designed the past critically acclaimed Rollercoaster Tycoon games, and the not so critically acclaimed Connectimals and Connectimals now with bears. Seriously. That's the title. Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 retails for $19.99, which is somewhat pricey considering it is a decade-old game, but remember, this originally retailed for $50, and Rollercoaster Tycoon 3, or at least the one I'm reviewing right here, right now, is the Platinum version, and that's the one that's currently retailing for $19.99, with 2 expansion packs included, Wild and the Soaked expansions, which add plenty of new rides, attractions, scenarios, gameplay features, and so on. So, I'd say the price is justified. Think of it as a Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 Game of the Year edition. Does the game hold up among the endless oceans of simulators out there? Or does this ride deserve to be forgotten? Story. What story? I mean, what kind of story would there possibly be if all you do is manage and try to maximize profits for a park? There is no story, so I crafted my own. You enter a park that is seemingly empty. Your name is Little Jimmy. Little Jimmy goes into a free roller coaster ride. Little Jimmy is happy. Little does he know that the ride falls directly into a pen full of lions and bears. Little Jimmy is doomed. The crowd cheers as Jimmy's ripped apart. The end. 10 out of 10. Best game ever. Game of the Year edition. Goodbye. The first thing you'll notice are the graphics. Back then, they were amazing, or at least I thought so. Hell, they are still quite nice when it comes to the models for roller coasters, and especially the water. The water always looks great, and it always did look great. It blew my mind when it first came out. What really looks ugly, however, are the people. I mean, look at them. They only look terrible when you're really zoomed onto their faces. I mean, what do you expect? They looked ugly 10 years ago, they still look ugly today. They kinda have to be. There are hundreds and hundreds of them on screen at one time, so it's fine. Can't really dislike them for that. The majority of detail went to the actual rides and scenery. You can ride all rides in first-person view and third-person views, and even more. It is just amazing seeing your park through the eyes of the attendees. Very spectacular indeed, and a detail that was not necessary, but just adds so much more fun and depth into the atmosphere the parks all give. Lighting at night is excellent, and it is something that just hypnotizes you. There's just something awe-inspiring about watching your rides through the view of the ride and the people, and watching your whole park all around you. It is very incredible. You have to try it. It is a very cool feature. It was amazing back then, it still is amazing now. When it comes to sound, RCT3 delivers realistic sound effects for just about everything you can think of. From the satisfying sounds of sales being made, to the screams of attendees riding roller coasters and thrill rides alike. Coasters all have their various metallic clicks and clatters for the rides, as each tune pretty much fits a theme for the park, and they do so beautifully. As I mentioned before, it is almost atmospheric and calming to see your park flourish and make plenty of profits. I'd say the sounds and atmosphere are delivered excellently. Now into the heart and soul of the game, the gameplay. Where to begin? Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 is a game where you pretty much have complete and total range over managing a park. You can control just about anything you can expect. There's so much content in here, it is just insane. Most of the time, you will be placing rides to make that bank. You can place all kinds of attractions into your park, from thrill rides to gentle rides to the titular roller coasters, which are probably the most fun because they're so big and they also make the most money. But that's also due because they are the most expensive. So it's balanced. It's not like they're overpowered or anything. Anywho, with roller coasters, you can create your own custom rides. You don't have to use the preset and pre-built ones. You can make your own roller coasters from scratch, and it's really easy and intuitive. It is so much fun creating these rides, and the really creative people will have a blast creating these. I, for one, am not one of those people, so I tend to make simpler ones, but ones that are efficient. You don't have to be a creative genius to create a ride. It is very simple. Each ride has a unique numeric value that is assigned to the excitement, intensity, and nausea ratings. Certain park guests want to ride specific types of rides, with more or less ratings of intensity and excitement. And most will have a low tolerance to nausea. If a ride is not exciting enough for some guests, they won't ride it, and the same is true the other way around. If a ride is too intense, some guests won't ride it at all. They will prefer gentler rides, especially their kids. So there is a fine balance between how much and how many rides to have to cater to as many guests as possible. Gentle rides won't be very intense at all, with low nausea and intensity, but as well as low excitement rating. The most important value is the excitement rating. The higher the value, the better the ride. However, the more exciting the ride is, the more you can charge for it, as well as the more intense it will be. You want to keep nausea as low as possible for your guests, or your guests will get sick and throw up. The attendees will also get very hungry and thirsty over time, so you must install booths for food and water. There's plenty of food and items to choose from, as well as items for them to drink from. Luckily, the game provides all the information needed to keep track and organize everyone's information, so you can see everyone's thoughts grouped up and lets you see how many guests are hungry, tired, thirsty, the works. You can also individually click on them to spy on them to check how much money, what kind of rides they like, and other information. You can also speed up time to 3 times the normal speeds and make things happen much quicker. This is a lifesaver because if this wasn't here, the game would be a nightmare and it would make the game extremely tedious. What can be tedious, and usually is that after your park has been doing fine for a while and been gaining a large amount of customers, your guests will be very hungry and thirsty, and no matter how often you spam food and drink stalls, it makes you feel like it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. It causes the game to stagnate and slow down because it makes you feel like you are powerless to help. I think it is more of the way the game is representing the numbers that's the problem, and not what you see when it comes to the graphs. So I think you shouldn't have to worry too much if it seems like the bar is too large. I just largely ignore it. As long as you put enough food stalls and you keep the number of people thirsty and hungry to a certain minimum, you'll be fine. You can adjust the prices for the rides and food items to insane levels, but people won't buy them, and thus you won't make money. You can charge for just about everything you can think of, and even the toilets. You bet your ass I will charge for the toilets. I can charge as much as $10 if I want to, but I found that 30 cents is perfectly fine for all. To maintain an efficient and profitable park, you must also hire staff to inspect the rides, clean up, speed vomit chunks, and entertain guests in an ever so creepy costume. And make sure your staff is happy. If your staff is being lazy, you can discipline them, reduce their laziness, or you can discipline them to reduce their laziness, or promote them and pay them more to keep them happy. And I forgot to mention, every ride has an hourly cost, and it gets very expensive if they are not making enough profit. Then you have to wait long periods of time to progress, which gets boring quickly, causing stagnation. Luckily, you can just close the park and make them all leave, then charge them to get in. But sometimes you don't have that luxury, because sometimes parks are free in the scenarios, and then you're fucked. What fucking park is free? Certainly not any of these, but I can understand why the developers did that, because if I could charge nearly $100 for people to go in, the game would end very quickly. So that's okay. It's just pretty funny to point out. Thanks to the expansions, you can have plenty of water-themed rides and zoos of sorts with plenty of animals. The animals function a bit differently, but they just need their needs to be tended. For example, hippos, just as in the real world, are territorial, so having large enough enclosures shared with not too many animals in one space will keep them happy. Abuse them long enough, and PETA will come and take your animals. If an animal escapes to wreak havoc, you can shoot them with a tranquilizer to recover them and take them back into their enclosures. And let them chase around the people of the park. I prefer that. That's more fun. Yes, this game will want you to be a dick to people and pretty much torture them. You can make deadly rides on purpose and cause people to go flying and explode into crowds of other people, pick up women and children and drop them into pits and make them fall off bridges, roll off mountains, etc. Death parks are a thing, and it's where you make a series of rides that end in pain and tragedy for the guests. And I love every second of it. Most other people do this too. It's quite normal. Or at least that's what I tell myself. The majority of time will be spent completing the campaign mode, where you will essentially be completing tasks for each scenario given. Sometimes a scenario might be where you have to take roller coasters of certain sizes and excitement ratings to complete scenarios. Each scenario has 3 different tiers of goals to complete: Apprentice, Entrepreneur, and Tycoon. Each stage will ask for you to complete tasks that become incrementally difficult. Sometimes it might just be having a park rating of at least a certain number for various months, or something as simple as having sale profits from food and drink stalls to exceed $100 a month to ascend to the next stage and finally complete it. Each scenario can take as little as 15 minutes to as much as an hour to wait and complete it. Each scenario completed awards you with a new roller coaster design that has been unlocked, so completionists will be happy with this game. There are plenty of scenarios to complete in the core game and even more in the expansion packs. Each scenario usually has a theme for your park that you're trying to make successful. Some are realistic and calming parks, to parks that take place in outer space or outer space themed with alien plants and fauna. The range of themes and parks are varied, so you don't really see the same thing over and over. You'll have plenty to do with content that should last you a long time for the campaign alone. If you don't know how to complete certain tasks, you can always try out in-game tutorials that cover just about every mechanic in the game. If you love simulator games, Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 Platinum is probably one of the best simulator games out there. There's just something so invigorating to create your own park and expand it towards success. It is hard to explain, but once you try it, this game will make you lose countless hours because you will become so proud of your park and its success. The game shows its age somewhat, but not to the extent that it ruins its immersion and fun. Despite the annoying and needy guests at times and the tediousness of price adjusting stage by stage, scenario by scenario, Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 Platinum offers an experience unlike many other out there. Even though RCT3 Platinum retails for $19.99 US, I believe it is an excellent price for the content. Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 Platinum receives an instant buy. Even after 11 years, magnificent work, team. I clap to you. Our fellow Steamers agree, with 89% out of 1,568 reviews. Very close to my rating actually. Well, thank you all for your work, peeps. I greatly appreciate it. I seriously do. I am nearing 50 subscribers and I am very grateful. And I will keep doing this. Balancing 2 jobs, home life, and errands can get overwhelming and even slow down my progress, but I will try to adapt and keep it up. Thank you all for watching. Here's a video on the Path of Exile free-to-play game and a review on Plague Inc. Evolved. If you've seen those, well, I do have more. Check them out. And if you're new, click that subscribe button to make my day. And if you like and comment, that would be great as well. I love to answer comments and tell me, do you still play Rollercoaster Tycoon 3? Is it your favorite? Let's talk. This is Randomjeanc signing off.